All righty then. So we wrapped everything up last night with our 7-part series, Journey to the Promised Land of You. And I'm just going to recap all six, and then I'll talk about the seventh one. The very first part was seeing yourself through God's eyes. And what we talked about, it's important that we see ourselves through who created us. That's how you see yourself. And we start talking about the strength of your focus. Part two was the strength of your focus is the strength of you. Now that you see yourself through God's eyes, focus on who you see yourself as through His eyes, because that brings the strength of who you are. Then part three was being tripped up is not who I am, because we realize that 7 times a righteous man, you see who yourself is, but you might get tripped up. You might miss. You might get off base. You might, you might even fall out of working with God. But being tripped up is not who you are, because the Lord said 7 times a righteous man will fall, but 7 times he'll get back up. Then part four was our identity is in our sensitivity to the spirit and not in our sensational to our flesh, because we realize that, hey, now that we understand who we are, our growth in our identity comes through being sensitive to the Spirit of God and not through anything else. And then about part five was rehabilitation, where we talked about how God rehabilitates us, brings us back, redeemed us, put us back to where we was, because we failed, but now we're back. But then all of us through life, somewhere, sometime we fall, and the word says 7 times. So many of us failed 7 times, but many times, but when God got us up, but once He gets us back up, now now we have to be rehabilitated. Part six, last week, was the you that walks in God's peace, where we talked about, well, how you keep from being mad at somebody when they cut you off in traffic. And we realize there's a peace that passes all understanding that guards your heart from that explosion. Or how you stay up when somebody talks about but you, calls you a fool or curses you out. There's a peace that guards your mind and your heart. We talked about walking in God's peace, that the person who is born again, who wants to live a life that God, the fullness of the identity of who God is, they have to learn how to walk in God's peace that goes beyond the things that are happening, because storms may happen, but you can go to sleep at the bottom of the boat with Jesus. Right? That was part six. Part seven we discussed last night, and that was the true version of you. Woo! Okay, so I got about 2 minutes left to talk about this because I want to keep it on 5 this time. Okay, well, I'm trying to anyway. The true version of you, y'all. There's this saying that people say, and they've been saying a lot over last night about being the best version of yourself. And the misnomer has been, and it tricks anybody, tricks me, tricks you, to anybody, that when we talk about being the best version of ourselves, we're talking about getting our body down right, looking the best way we can look, combing our hair right, having the right clothes on, driving the right car. Be the best version of you. Look at you in the mirror. Let's be the best version of you. And we begin to understand that being the best version of me has nothing to do with outward appearance, material, anything like that. Being the best version of me is being what God said, and He said, "Let us make man. Let us create man. Let us create man in our likeness and in our image." And being the best version of us has everything to do with what God said. I'm creating you in my image and in my likeness. So He gives us that spirit. God said, "I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb," which means before you had any of this outward experiencing going on, that there was a you that God had already created in His image and in His likeness. And so that's the thing that had to be mature. Who I am in the inside, who did God create me to be? Because that's the true version of me. That's the version I want to see. That's the best version of me. The version that God said, "I already gave you that." But you had to go through a maturing stages and processes to bring that you to fruition, so that it can start flourishing in the world, and that you may now produce the good fruit from inside of you that I placed inside of you as the person that I created you to be, being the true version of you. Oh man, and we learn through the study that it doesn't matter that 10 years, 20 years, 30 years have passed by, and you were wayward. You can come back. God will always restore you. He'll always bring you back. Once you step back into Him and you submit yourself to Him, He said, "I can bring the best version of you, the true version of you out." But the enemy has taught us, the enemy has tricked us and duped us through all sorts of worldly influences that the best version of is something that the world could see. But no, the best version of us is the thing that God has already produced in us to come out so that the world can observe his glory through our lives. That's the best version of us. Not that I look good, I look all GQ, I'm driving a expensive car, I got a nice house, I got all that has nothing to do with being the best version of you. The best version of you is the version of you that really has the glory of God just flourishing through his soul, who he created you to be in his likeness and in his image. Y'all, we had a great time. I did send out some emails. I did also send out some podcast inboxes so you guys can observe or listen to it. Take time to if you feel like it. If not, it's cool because I pray that God was going to bless you however you are subject to be blessed. That's a good thing for me to hear. Glory to God. See you guys next week on The Impact. Holla!